Search is important because it creates connections. They've been introduced to new companies. They expect to find your brand there. And it reminds me of brands I'm familiar with. Now, those questions and the level of response tells you they're not typing in your brand name to find you. They're typing in generic keywords. They're typing in digital camera. They're typing in cell phones. That's an opportunity for you, and you've got to determine how you measure that, because the measurement for that is a little bit different than determining I've just sold a camera, therefore put me down for a value of 1. Some research that was done by Yahoo looked at brand category leaders who were showing up in search results positions, high positions, and an awareness delta shift that was going on. And even for category leaders, so for those of you in the room who represent big brands who have high positions in your categories, even for category leaders, the brand awareness lift from being found in these types of queries, really important to your brand. When you're not there, you take yourself out of the running. This was a study done by Enquiro a few years ago. And basically, if you were not there, and this was an unbranded search that was going on, if you were not there, you were 16% less likely to be considered for purchase than those who were there. And brands that had strong presence, in this case they were studying Honda, and were showing up in multiple places, again, the paid, the organic side of a search results page, 10 percent points higher to be considered for purchase. So the difference between showing and not showing, the value of being up the funnel in what we're looking at in a search perspective, awareness, consideration type keywords versus brand, really important to consider. You've got to protect your house. It's Under Armour's slogan, but it's absolutely what we've got to do in the search space. You know, anytime you're not there in branded search or in generic search, you open an opportunity for other companies to come in and steal mind share, to steal exposure away from you. So when we think about our search programs, we tend to put them together in this way. We buy down the funnel, we buy our brand names, that's what we should do. We spend, 20% of our budget around brand terms, we get about 80% of our revenue that way. And then we kind of filter in with a little bit of up the funnel. We might buy some generic keywords, some things we feel are unique to us. But what oftentimes happens is we don't do enough of this protective buying because we figure, well, it's not cost effective. We didn't sell a lot of cell phones by buying the keyword cell phone, so what's its value in the equation? It's a multi-step process. This is some Google research. 60% of travel transactions start in with a non-brand term in the study that they did. That means that consumers are finding their way through, and sometimes they hit upon brand terms. We have this nice view of a funnel, and what happens in a funnel? You start at the top, you do a generic search. I want to go to Hawaii. Then you figure out when you want to go, you start to figure out the carrier you want to go, and suddenly we're on Alaskan Air looking for flights and hotel information. Well, that's a kind of, dream scenario of the funnel that exists. This research starts to show us that people are using generics at lots of different points of the funnel to try and get to that end destination. So you've got to appreciate the journey they're going on, the way they start to consume information and be present in messaging to them accordingly. It's also a latent experience. These type of searches, specific hotels, specific destinations, they're longer queries. We would all like for people to click and buy and wipe our hands of it the same day. That happens for a fair amount of queries that go on, but there's a lot of things like this. So as you think about your search efforts, you've got to think about them in a longer context than you probably do today. You've got to keep in mind that whenever we do search, and this is kind of the search trending line, this is what's always on. And then what happens is we add in all of our other media. So as we think about budgeting, it's really important for us to integrate between the channels, to understand the difference of investments that are going on. When we launch new TV campaigns, when we buy higher rates of impressions on display, what's the impact that's going to have on search? This is a little bit of research we've just knocked out in the last few weeks. We wanted to understand when people are doing branded searches, what led them to that point. And so we kind of normalized for how many people would have done those searches anyway. It was about 40%. Based on all the other media we were looking at, we did some regression models. And what we found is that 17% of those people they eventually did that branded search as a result of generic paid search. But 22%, the largest factor, found us and started doing branded paid search clicks. So they clicked on our paid search ads as a result of finding us in organic search initially. So as we think about the importance of paid and organic, once again, we start to see another case where we can't just give the dollars away. We've got to think about our assets and the importance that they have. So what else can generic up the funnel searches do for us? One of the things they can clearly do for us is spur interest down the funnel. In this example of a broadband advertiser, what we found is once they started to add generics up the funnel, non-brand specific queries to the mix and buying against them, not only did they see sales off of that, but they saw a substantial increase in sales coming off of brand searches eventually from that. So again, it all plays together. We've got to invest and stimulate the funnel upwards to get better performance down. So what will search be? Search will clearly be, as Jeremy alluded to, more of our lives than it is today. Whether it's a verb or something else, it will be a part of everything that you do. So when you think about search, you've got to think about it in the context of different ways that consumers will start to find you and look for you. I don't know where the 20 went, if we were paying it forward or not, but who knows what the number 2 global search engine is? Just yell it out. I can't see with these lights. Nope, not Baidu. YouTube, that's right, YouTube, number 2 search engine. Number 1 for fuzzy kittens on a fan searches, by the way, but number 2 overall. So as we start to think about the changes that are going on in our media and in digital and in the broader context, you're going to see better abilities for people to find what they want. They'll find the programs they want on televisions in a better way. They'll organize the information in their household and their schedule in different ways. All of these things will present themselves with ad opportunities over time. But for today, it's important for you to think about the digital assets that exist for you and how best to position those. So this is an example that we worked on with Xerox. Xerox wanted to reach out to the B2B audience marketplace and help those customers understand how information overload affected their lives, and they decided to activate the community socially. But what happened as a result of that, and they created some viral videos and they shared that with the B2B community, what happened to that was that people then started going into YouTube, going into Google, and looking for the phrases information overload and Xerox and watching these videos. And so we saw an enormous shift in how they had previously branded themselves and tried to reach out to the audience in a completely digital effort. There was no traditional implied to this. It was solely focusing on digital channels and YouTube and search as a way to reach out to a different segment of their audience than they might have in the past. We have in digital, and you talk about brands and the opportunity, we have this enormous petri dish of learning. We have this amazing ability to hear consumers talk. We've heard about Twitter this morning. We've talked about Facebook. You hear a lot about how we can listen to the consumers and learn. And we have that in this space. And I want to give you what I think is a fantastic example of how one word led to such an important change.